I see a record light. Let's hope I'm recording. Hi boys and girls, it's me Butch. And today I'm going to talk about this 1850s British Army issue Bugler or Drummer's sword. This is a Model 2. It has a 2 stamped down on the end here somewhere. I don't have my glasses on. And it's missing, I have it, but I've had this about 30 years or more, and the little brass piece broke off. I have it, it needs a repair, so the blade can wiggle a bit here. Anywho, what am I talking about? I'm 73 and I'm in debt and poor, and I'm reclusive, and I would like to preserve this sword because I know it's really neat, and because I was looking around for things I could sell that I'd like to save. This was one of them, and I also had I have this old Sony transistor radio, so I have them advertised on Craigslist to sell, both of them now. And I didn't know what this sword was when I put it up for sale, and I have since found out what it is. And also I think I've discovered what the history is of the markings that are stamped on the end of the sword here. There's a model number 2 on here. I know what that means now. And there's a number 1 and a capital S period, a capital C period, and a number 13. I like the fact that it was a number 13. The history of this sword with me is that I'm a photographer, and back in the early 1980s I wanted to do a series of photographs of men, naked men actually, and there would be a common theme, and they'd all be holding this sword. It was what I called my Dawn Warrior series. So at the time, I borrowed a sword from another photographer friend. He had a sort of a replica Spanish sword, and I thought it looked pretty crappy, so I went scouring pawn shops, and I found this sword in a pawn shop on Church Street in Toronto, somewhere around 1982 to 83, somewhere around there. And I paid, I believe, $95 for it. So it was all kind of pitted and very blackened, and it had a scabbard, which I've unfortunately lost. I wasn't so much interested in the scabbard anyway, but I took some steel wool to it and metal polish, and removed the worst pitting, and had to do a tiny bit of retouching here to get some of the really bad pits out of the tip. It was really badly pitted. So anyhow, that's how I came by it, and when I went to sell it on Craigslist, which was a couple of weeks ago now, I've had a couple of Craigslist scammers try to scam me out of it with the phony check scheme. But I found out what it is, and then I started researching. Once I realized it's a sword that was made in the 1850s, and it was made for bugle players and drummers because they had no defense in battle, and it came unsharpened, and they were instructed they should sharpen it. But also it was a good parade sword because it wasn't too big to get in the way of their bugling. And back in the 1850s, they didn't have walkie-talkies or anything, so drummers and buglers were very important. They were the messengers, and everybody knew what bugle call meant what, and what drum beat meant what. So these guys are pretty defenseless, but they did get a sword. So how did this get to be in North America? Well, it turns out during the colonial wars, the Union Army set up a regiment in South Carolina called the 1st South Carolina Regiment, which is what I believe the 1SC means, and it was composed mostly of black men. That's sort of, when you can attach a history to a sword like this, which is over 150 years old now, these are not entirely rare. They're very uncommon, and their average retail value would be about $500 to $600 US if you could find one. but they would be a little difficult to find. The thing is, now they know what it is. I've been in contact with a museum in South Carolina, and I haven't, this is just happening right now, and I've promised to hold the sword until I hear back from them, because they may want to purchase it, and I'm asking 400 Canadian dollars for it, which I think is entirely fair in spite of the fact that the brass thing needs to be fixed. And I seem to remember there might have been a bit of leather in there when I got it. I've had this sword for 30 years. So this is a Model 2 1850s British Army made bugler or drummer's sword, and it would have been used by British forces in North America anyway. That's how it got to North America, I would imagine. And it seems like 99.99% likely that it was issued to a bugler or a drummer in the 1st South Carolina Regiment, and the issue number was number 13, which is really cool. I really like the number 13. So I'm not going to have this sword much longer, because I'm selling it one way or another, and I'm hoping it does end up in a museum in South Carolina. And that's it from, oh, just to give you, it's about 26 inches long. Here is a replica broadsword from the 1500s to 1600s. This is what a soldier would carry if they didn't have a pike. It's almost a two-hander, and you know, this is really sharp. This is a real sword. It's a replica made in India. You know, it's a chop your head off kind of sword, because in the field they didn't have guns yet. By the time this sword came around, muskets were being invented, and but the drummers and the bugle players, they couldn't carry a gun in those days. So this thing has gotten shorter and shorter over the years, to the point where nowadays it's a bayonet. You know, a modern soldier would have a bayonet, and their bayonet would be able to be clipped onto their gun, so they could use it as a pike as well as a close fighting weapon. So that's it from Butchie Poo. And I'm going to go turn the camera off now and hope I got something. I think I did. Bye from Butch.